Yeah. Well, if you don't learn to be patient, you're going to have a very frustrating life.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay, I'm going to play my intro video and we'll start.
Okay.
Okay, we are back. Oh, I don't want to do it. I just want us to be side by side. Okay. So for anybody right now, I am experiencing some technical difficulties today. That's why I'm only streaming to YouTube and my Facebook. And we have somebody already saying hello. So, and then I have TikTok and also the Podbean live being on the side. So for anybody who didn't see the trigger warning, we have some raw content sometimes. I don't know that this episode will be particularly raw, but anybody who gets triggered easily, please be careful. And if you do feel any triggering or anything from this episode, please reach out and we will point you in the right direction. Also, I am not any kind of certified professional yet. I am seeking my peer support certification, but I am not certified yet. So nothing I say should be taken as any kind of advice directly. Okay, so today we have with us James. He is a Recovery Dharma practicer. He's an alcoholic in recovery, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Recovery Dharma. I think is a very interesting. I actually attended a meeting, and I attended a meeting of his the other day and spoke and gave my testimony for the first time in a long time. That was very raw and emotional. But so in turn, he has decided to come and speak to us today about his recovery pathway. So, James, if you want to take it from here for now.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Leanna. As far as my pathway, which Leanna spoke very briefly about in introduction, Recovery Dharma is the pathway that I'm on. And it is very similar to traditional recovery pathways like AA and Smart Recovery and Narcotics Anonymous and some others. It's not as well known, partly because it's not nearly as old as the other methods of recovery are. But this is something that is non-secular, so it has no religious content whatsoever, but it is spiritual at the same time. It involves meditation, it involves an understanding of moral truths and ethical behavior, and it's very cool. It's very helpful. It's actually given me a new life over the last 6 months since I've been practicing it. I was a mess before that. Believe me, 35 years of drinking will do that to a person. And I spent the last 8 years basically sitting at a desk in my house playing computer games and drinking a quart of vodka every day. So that'll give you an idea of where I came from.
I think, I know that you had expressed before that you think, your story isn't, it's very vanilla is how you said it. But I think, it's unique to me. I think it's just different where everybody comes from, because your story is so unique and interesting to me, and to you, it seems very plain in comparison to mine.
Yeah, I think, as you said to me, everyone's story has validity, and I'm not denying that every story has validity, including my own. It's just that, I was a little bit concerned that I would come on here and your viewers would say, who the hell wants to hear from this old guy, about an alcoholic? But no, we don't have to go into that again because, the proof is in the pudding. If people watch this and they have interesting comments and so forth, and they say, hey, that guy was okay, then it was a good decision. And otherwise, they'll probably just tune out and they'll fall asleep during this interview.
Somebody right now just said your story is valid. So,
okay.
But so people are watching. That always makes me feel better. But so I guess we can talk a little bit about Dharma, because I know you said it. You did do like AA meetings and stuff before, right?
Yes, I did AA meetings for about 8 years. Pretty much when I really started hitting the bottle hard, I realized, yeah, this is time to take some action. And AA was the first thing at hand. I didn't know about Recovery Dharma at that time. And I had an AA chapter, less than a mile from my house. So I went to that. And I went around to other meetings that were local. There were about 5 towns in the area. It was a rural area, but there were a lot of AA meetings. I don't know what that exactly says about alcoholics, but I guess they're pretty much everywhere. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I did the whole AA thing, and I did not go through the steps per se, but I did the readings, I did the meetings, and I understood, more or less what the practice was about. And it just didn't appeal to me, and it didn't work for me.
So, do you remember your first experience walking into a Recovery Dharma space and how it felt differently from other rooms?
Yeah, I do. The first meeting at Recovery Dharma was at Swift River Recovery Center in Cummington, Massachusetts, which is coincidentally about 16 miles from my house at the time. And the meeting was in a small conference room. It was, a bunch of people that barely knew each other. I had just gotten there that day. Most of the people had only been there for a couple of days, and they hadn't had a meeting in a couple of weeks. So that, we were all new to Recovery Dharma pretty much, except for one person who was sort of a layover from the previous group that had been meeting, because I think she spent 2 months there. So she led the meeting, and it was a very extraordinary meeting, because and it wasn't just that way for me. It was for a lot of the people who were there. Meditation was very powerful. It was led by someone who had a lot of experience leading meditation, and he was, he knew all the words. He knew all the moves. We had a bell for the ringing, singing bells, what they call it. But basically, it's one of those meditation bells, and he played that like a magician. It was amazing at the beginning and at the end of the meeting to start and end the meeting and then the meditation. Anyway, the readings were very powerful. They hit home with a lot of us. There was a lot of wisdom in them. There was a lot of, instruction, in the sense that, you're here to actually be empowered to take control of your recovery and through this practice, which is a very different message than what you hear when you go to AA, which is, you need to surrender yourself to God. You need to basically say that I have no power over alcohol. It rules me, and I've got to leave it in God's hands, and just, go to meetings and follow the practices here, but it's really not up to me. That did not appeal to me, and I'm someone who's familiar with various religions, including Christianity. I grew up as a Unitarian, which is a form of Christianity. It's usually referred to as God-fearing atheism by people who don't know what it is, but it's actually mostly a Christian-based religion. And it's, the pastor would read from the Bible at our meeting Sunday. So anyway, that's a little bit off the track here, but
It's okay.
yeah, go ahead.
For anybody who doesn't know, hold on. We have some few people join us on TikTok. I know you guys can only see me and hear him.
I don't know if anybody can hear me, but Leanna's connection has dropped. So I'm just waiting for her to rejoin this streaming session. Looks like she has rejoined. There we go.
Okay, thank you. I don't know what happened. I could see and hear you the whole time. Like it kicked me off, but I could still see you. I heard you say like that I lost connection and to bear with us or whatever, and I have no idea what happened. So I apologize to everybody for that. But so we were talking a little bit about, I did a meeting with James the other day, one of his Dharma meetings, and there was a time for meditation. And I decided I was here and I was going to give it a fair shot. And I did. I found it like incredibly like calming and peaceful. It was a really unique experience, something that I've never done. Like my kids and my husband, nobody was here. We sat in like just complete silence, and there was a recording this time, and it was like telling you, focus on your breath. And it even went so far as to say that like to drift from the from your thoughts or whatever is normal, and then that was okay. And and that really did help me, because I did find it incredibly hard to concentrate that long, but because I'm brand new at it, I guess. But I really did enjoy that. It was something that, I don't know, like I said, for me, I'd never heard of Dharma. I've never in no way even thought about meditation. And it really did clear my mind and just give me a better attitude or feeling for the day, I guess.
Well, that's really cool. That the thing about meditation that a lot of people don't understand is that it is really just for you, and it's a very personal practice. So it's very therapeutic, and there's really no wrong way to meditate. That was sort of what happened to me the first time I tried to meditate on my own. Just sort of reading a book on what you're supposed to do, and there are a lot of different ways to meditate, but essentially, there is no wrong way. You just shouldn't expect fireworks or some opening in the ground or something dramatic to happen when you meditate. It's really about focusing your concentration and calming, your mind a little bit by doing that. And that's where the therapeutic aspect of it is. And guided meditations are more therapeutic in the sense that they suggest ways for you to improve your concentration or your focus by focusing on your breath, for instance, which is something that people don't do intentionally ever, probably. But by doing this and changing the rhythm of your breath or the deepness of your breath, and ultimately having to bring your attention back to your breath because your mind is distracted all the time, and that's the natural thing with your human brain. You're always going to be thinking about other things. Anyway, that's meditation in a nutshell, and it works with Dharma very well, because it works for addicts really well, because one of the main things that we have problems with is keeping our minds off of things like alcohol or drugs and craving things like that. And once you lose control and the ball starts rolling downhill and you build momentum toward a craving, it may get you. It may drive you right to the liquor store or to the corner to pick up some drugs. And if you have a little more mental discipline, a little more focus, you can actually slow it down dramatically and wait for it to pass, which is, the key to staying sober. And that's the main aim of meditation in recovery from addiction.
So I did a little bit just of quick research into Dharma so we could have this interview. And it mentions like the Dharma book a lot. And I know you did send me a link to the book, and I did skim it. It was long. It was like 100 and some pages long. So I thought it was going to be like a pamphlet, and I got in there to read it, and I read some of it, but I do plan on reading. Like I said, I do find Dharma incredibly interesting, but it talked about the book a lot. And then in my little questions that I have wrote up, it says a question from the book that cracked something open for you that really.
Was there something in the book that cracked something open for me? Well, yeah. And it is actually a pretty short book in terms of a handbook for an entire practice. So it's relative, but it is very dense in terms of the content that's in there. Because we read from that book in every meeting, and I'm always amazed because there's something new that comes to my attention when I read something that I've read maybe 10 or 15 times before, which is, it's a very well written book.
Yeah. It has to be powerful, as in, I know a lot of people came to the mind of the Bible, right? That I did,
Right.
because that's what they say about the Bible. Every time you read it, or every time someone else, different people read it, it's interpreted differently and you get something else from it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that sounds like to me. So whoever wrote that book, do you know who wrote it? Is it a...
Yeah. The story of the book is that there was a predecessor organization called Refuge Recovery, which was pretty much the same thing as Recovery Dharma. It started about maybe 5 or 6 years before Recovery Dharma did. So that was, probably early 2000s when Refuge Recovery came around. So there was a book written for that practice, which still exists, which is almost identical to the book from Recovery Dharma. The main difference is that, as far as I'm aware, I'm not a tremendous authority on this, but I have done a little bit of background study on both of these. But the Refuge Recovery book was written by an individual named Noah Levine, who was one of the founders of American Buddhist practice and teaching. And he ran into some difficulties, which I won't get into, and it was decided to break off a new practice called Recovery Dharma, which did not include him in any capacity. So the next book, Recovery Dharma, was written by the members of Recovery Dharma rather than an individual person. So the viewpoints expressed there may be very similar, but they were all vetted and contributed to by members of the Recovery Dharma community, which is, the actual individual authors is unknown, but probably hundreds of contributions to that text, and ultimately agreed on by the people who were in charge of publishing it.
That's amazing. How you think about how you said hundreds of people possibly came together to put that together. Like, that's a crazy what we can do when we try as a society.
Yeah, and it's a very egalitarian organization in the sense that you came to one of the meetings that I hosted and facilitated, but everybody who was in that meeting is considered to be an equal. Even though I was leading the meeting, I'm just a member of the Sangha, or the community. Sangha is a Pali word, an ancient Indian word for community. And it's a religious community called the Sangha, which, we're not religious, but it's a community that's studying the tenets of Buddhism and practicing the recovery practice that's laid out.
So I know Dharma, they practice 4 Noble Truths. Do you want to tell about them?
Yeah, the 4 Noble Truths are really a foundational element of Recovery Dharma. Basically, it's stating things that are known facts, like there is suffering in the world, and we all experience suffering, right? We know that to be true.
Absolutely.
And there is a cause of suffering. We don't just randomly experience suffering. There are things in life that causes suffering. What this third noble truth basically says, the cause of suffering is craving, or being in need or want of something that we can't have. And an addiction, that obviously refers to drugs and alcohol. We want drugs, we want alcohol, because they are the thing that we've chosen to solve problems in life, to give us relief from our problems in life. But suffering can refer to anything: physical pain, the death of a loved one, something, any kind of pain is suffering.
Right.
And it can be trivial to some extent, but it can be extremely deep pain as well. But, the final truth is that the solution to the problem of suffering is to follow the Eightfold Path, which leads you to the Eightfold Path, which is the second part of the practice, which is basically eight specific things that are just, if you think about them, they're really common sense. And they're called wise speech, wise understanding, and various other things. I'm not going to go through all of them because people will get bored with that, which I don't want to do. They can read about it if they want to, but all of them are basically common sense, and things that any ethical person would want to do in their life. But there's a very careful focus put on those, and an explanation of why they help and how you can practice them more fully by studying Recovery Dharma and doing the meditations and so forth. So it's a comprehensive practice. It's not magic. It's not religion. It's a little bit psychology. It's a very modern practice, so it's a little bit Americanized. There's some psychology in it. There's some light version of spiritualism in there, which is not. It's not told to you how to practice spiritually. It's something that you're supposed to find, and many people do find it through meditation and through the practice, because it clears your head. I mean, one of the things that I would like to say is that I literally had the first spiritual awakening in my life when I started practicing this. And it was an amazing several days where it felt like I just woke up for the first time to my life, which is pretty amazing at the age of 65. Okay. I got to tell you, I've lived a long time and I never had anything like that before, but it was real. And I just thought clearly. I could feel things intuitively and empathically about what was going on around me. And I just had a lot of thoughts in my head about my life, and things just suddenly became clear, really for the first time, probably really in my life. Things were in perspective, and it was just amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I've heard people talk about in other faiths and things like that. And it's like, I don't know if I really believe that, but it is possible. And I actually believe there's a lot of correlation between what we're doing in terms of the spiritual work on ourselves and what other people experience when they're doing spiritual work in Christianity or any other religion. Because there's something there that you suddenly find and you go, aha.
And it's amazing how, you said even at, so far in your life, I'm sure that you didn't ever imagine that you would find something like that or experience something like that. I know as we get older, even myself, I'm only 35 and I find myself feeling like I'm just never going to, like I'm old dog, new tricks type thing. And so to experience something so incredible and so powerful, that has to be amazing.
It was.
So I don't know. In my little questions, it says, what does craving mean in Buddhist terms? Do they have a different definition? And how does that shift your approach to relapse or triggers? Do they define craving differently, or is that just,
no,
am I not reading that correctly?
Yeah, craving is, it can be for any sort of thing that causes you pain. Craving is the lack of something that you really want. If you're starving, you're going to be craving food. If you're thirsty, you're going to be craving a glass of water. If you're an addict who hasn't had his fix, you're going to be craving your next fix. Or an alcoholic, same thing. You're looking for that next drink. You can't stand to be, halfway in your hangover and feeling like you get a barf, and you really want to have a drink. And I was in that stage for several years of my life, where I was drinking so heavily that I literally needed to have a drink in order to keep myself from falling into sobriety and into detox stage, because you get very sick when that happens.
Okay, here's a good question. It's Dharma doesn't have sponsors like AA and NA and things do. So how do you guys hold each other accountable, or do you have accountability in your pathway, or no? Or
yeah, we have accountability to each other. It's like any other fellowship. You develop relationships with people, you develop routines, you go to a sangha if you're lucky enough to have an actual in-person meeting nearby, or even the remote meetings that I run. Over time, you get to know people, and it's like anything else. You get to know people, you have a fellowship, and you don't want to relapse, because you have these connections with people who are fighting the same fight that you are. You don't want to let them down any more than you want to let your loved ones down or yourself down. So it's just another support tool for your recovery.
Sure.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I'm reading the rest of the questions that I had. I'm trying to pick which ones I want to throw out.
One thing I will add to that, Leanna, is that we actually have more than just.
So for TikTok and Podbean, anybody still watching, I somehow got kicked out of my studio. I don't know why. Oh, we're back live on one stream. So I got kicked out somehow, and my guest, I guess, did as well. So I've sent him a message to come back in. I'm going to send him another link just in case. In case the link he has there. And him back. But for anybody who's just joining us, to kill the dead space, and tell what we're talking about. We're about Recovery Dharma. It's a pathway that James practices. He's relatively new to it. It's a relatively new or newer, I guess, pathway. They really centralize a lot of like meditation, and we were just talking about how they hold each other accountability, because they don't have necessarily have sponsorship, like someone that would hold you accountable normally in NA or A. So he's telling us a little bit about just each other accountable. Here he is. I am so sorry. I do not know what's going on today. But can I don't think you have audio again. I think it just worked, whatever you just did. No. Well, for all of our listeners and viewers, I'm so sorry this is happening today. We're having some technical difficulties. I keep having difficulties. Now we can't get his audio working. We'll get it figured out, though.
How about that?
Yes, I did it. Okay, so I was just telling everybody that because everything else didn't go off, so I was just kind of catching everybody up on what we were talking about. We were talking about accountability was the last thing that I heard before I got kicked out.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay. So accountability, aside from the fact that we have community members that are meditating with us and sharing with us every meeting, and sharing is very similar to AA type sharing, basically share your experiences and where you're at with your recovery in the meeting. We have what we call wise mentors, which are people who are basically senior members of the community who have more experience and, with the practice, and, have a willingness to, coach a little bit people who are newer to the group. And so it's a lot like being a mentor in AA, being a sponsor. Sponsor.
Okay, so you do have something similar.
Yeah, we do. It's a support system, just like any other, pretty much.
So if someone listening, feeling stuck, what's like a practice, something they could do tonight, Dharma wise, like something that you would just, like one thing you would, I guess that would be like one thing you would, advice you would give to someone that was just feeling stuck and wanting to try something new?
Well, that's a pretty open-ended question.
Yeah.
I don't know what stuck really means. I mean, if they're stuck trying to
struggling, I guess, like struggling,
struggling with their sobriety in general.
Yeah, I guess just in general, maybe not sobriety. I don't know. I guess mentally. Let's go with that. Let's go. If someone's struggling mentally, in recovery, someone in recovery is struggling mentally, maybe with cravings or triggers. I don't know, just,
Well, one of the things that meditation can do for you is that it can give you what we call equanimity, which is basically a sense of balance or a sense of centering yourself. That's one of the things that's really worked well for me. And that it's very hard to describe this in a 2 minute little snippet, but basically it involves understanding some things about the world and about the way time works, and about the way your emotions work. And our feelings are temporal, and they're also very temporary for that reason. What happens to us, what we feel, no matter how great it is, or no matter how bad it is, it's only going to last for a period of time. Sometimes it's very short, sometimes it's a lot longer. But impermanence is something that people in Recovery Dharma accept as it's a certainty. We can actually experience it for ourselves. And that's one of the things that we do in meditation sometimes is, you listen for something while you're meditating. Do you hear something in the background? And you listen, and then whatever, it may pass by. It might be a car going by. So obviously that's an example of impermanence. It's a sound that you hear, it goes by. And the same thing is true of feelings. So, it's a lot of this is just observing things, maybe for the first time, in a more intense and focused way. If you look around you, you actually will find things happening that you've never really paid attention to before. But they do confirm that you can sort of relax a little bit in life and realize that, these things have been happening all around me for my whole life. And they're going to continue happening after I'm gone. So a lot of these things I don't need to worry about or pay attention to, but it's just sort of reassuring to know that they're going to pass by. And if it's a craving, that's also going to pass by. If you can just calm yourself down and wait until the craving passes, and it will, if you just can stay calm enough and equanimous enough. That's what we call it, is being equanimous. It's being balanced and understanding the way things are moving around you. It'll pass. You'll be okay. You've done it before. You'll do it again. You can also do it now.
So I know at your meeting it was a little bit abnormal because I was speaking, but you guys do have like a book that you read passages out of. Is it similar to AA passages, or no, not at all?
No, it's a completely different book. As I mentioned before, it's written by members of the community. So, how to describe? Do you want me to describe the book in some way? Is that
or just like the types of readings? Like I don't know. Yeah, just.
Well, the book it's aimed at people who are new to Recovery Dharma. So it's not like the top level Buddhist study. It's aimed at people who are beginning. And so it has a natural introduction to Buddhism at the very beginning. And these are things that we read, not just because we often have new people or people who've never been to a Recovery Dharma meeting. We want them to get a little bit of a grounding. We don't read that every day, every meeting. So, even if there's someone new there, the content about, what is a Sangha, which is also part of it, which is, an addition to the original introduction in the book. There's a section in the back that describes the function of a Sangha and why it's so important. It's considered one of the 3 jewels of the practice of Buddhism in general. Is the 3 jewels are the Buddha and the Sangha and the Dharma, which is the Dharma part of Recovery Dharma, is the actual scriptures that were taken from the Buddha's teachings. Buddha was a real human being, born around 500 BC. So he well predates Christ, around the time of the ancient Greek and ancient Roman civilizations. So anyway, the Dharma is a bunch of scriptures, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that have been reduced to, concise material that can be read and understood by ordinary people. ordinary worshipers. In this case, it's a significantly simplified version that's put into this book. It's a summary of the teachings of the Buddha, the original teachings of the Buddha, to be distinguished from the teachings of Buddhist people who were in monasteries and things like that, which can be very different, because there are actually three different kinds of Buddhism, which are all ancient in origin, but they are somewhat different in the way they're practiced, and they have somewhat different belief systems. There are some that actually are religious, and they have a whole afterlife piece, and that's not what we do in Recovery Dharma.
So I just had a question, and I just completely. Oh, I know. You guys said that you don't necessarily practice with a higher power. Like, you guys don't push a higher power. So what role then does the Buddha play?
Well, the Buddha is a man, and he is a man, so he is a revered individual, because what he did, I could tell you a little bit about the story of the Buddha historically, and that may be more myth than reality, but there is a story about him. But the Buddha is, in this form, it's called Theravada Buddhism, which is about the original teachings. He's a human being, and he's a teacher. He spent his life learning, what the right way to live was, and how to interpret type of behavior that is right, and what the benefits of following that path are. And so the higher power issue it's left up to anybody who's practicing to figure out what their higher power is. You can study Recovery Dharma and be a confirmed Christian, and we have many people just like that studying at Recovery Dharma. And there are a lot of people who are, who've been going to AA for, 15, 20 years, who come to Recovery Dharma meetings because they get something else from Recovery Dharma that they don't get from AA or NA or Smart Recovery or anywhere else. There is something special about Recovery Dharma as a practice. And it's funny, because a lot of people who are, devout Christians, and they are, stalwart followers of AA, will come in and say, I get something spiritual from Recovery Dharma that I don't get anywhere else. And it's kind of weird, because normally when we think of spirituality, we think of God and angels and things like that. We don't think of spirituality in any other way except associated to a higher power. So I guess you could say that's the higher power, is the sense of spiritual awakening or understanding that you get from it, which some people say it's you're awakening your own spirit, but that doesn't mean you're the higher power. It means your brain is working at a higher level.
So the Buddha is less like a higher power, more like a teacher, or
he's not considered the higher power,
right?
Not in this. He's deified in the most recent version of, which is still ancient, of Buddhism, and that's the one with the afterlife and everything. But
that's probably where I was getting, because when I think of Buddha, that's kind of how I think, like a deity or a god, and so I was kind of.
Yeah, and I think that's very typical for people in the West who aren't familiar with Buddhism to begin with. They figure, people are sort of worshiping this guy, and yeah, some people in Buddhism are, but not all of them, and certainly not Theravada Buddhists. They're firmly rooted in the real world, the historical world, the historical person. He was a really, really smart guy. He was actually born into a royal family. I'll just give you a quick snippet of where he came from. He was born into a royal family in Nepal, which is not, back then it was not called Nepal, obviously, but where Nepal is now located. And at about the age of 30, after having gotten married and having his first child, he supposedly took a ride in a chariot outside the palace, which gave him for the first time the opportunity to see people who were sick and who were unhappy and poor and starving and all these various forms of suffering, which he'd never experienced because he had been kept within the palace for his entire life. And his parents had expressly sort of sequestered him, so he never saw anything bad. He was rich. He had anything he ever wanted. He got to pick his wife, and the point is that when he went out and understood that, the world is suffering, it was not. it drove him to explore, what is this world all about? And he spent a lot of time as an ascetic, basically meaning that he meditated and starved himself and, slowed his breath down to the point in meditation where, he was barely breathing, and experimented with all the aspects of existence from one extreme to the other is basically what it came down to in order to try to discover what was going to get him to the next level of understanding things in life. So he went from being very fabulously wealthy and happy and just carefree to depriving himself of every human want and need, pretty much just enough to keep him alive.
That's what I was going to say. It's really interesting because I thought like Buddhists are monks, right? And they're very like minimal, like that, like they don't have hardly any creature comforts. And for him to be born rich, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, then again, people who are monks are very devoted specifically, but they're not starving themselves unless they're doing it for a specific reason, like some sort of a cause that they're, trying to highlight, like, violence or war or whatever. They do that sometimes. Yeah. But the Buddha found what he called the middle path, which is between this extreme of fantastic wealth and enormous suffering. So the middle path is equanimity. It's just sort of in the middle. It's the balance of life where you're not too extreme one way or the other in the way that you live. And, you're compassionate and you're empathic toward other people. And there's a lot more that goes to it, but it's a balance in life. And, it works for me. That's all I can tell you. It really works for me.
And a lot of other people, I didn't realize, I had never heard of Recovery Dharma before. But after we actually met randomly, I was doing a test on my audio in Podbean, and he just popped in, and we just talking. And once you told me about Recovery Dharma, and I actually looked into it, you guys have huge summits every year, like big,
yeah.
Like a lot of people practice this. Like, for me to have never heard of it before, it's, it works. Like, it's not something that you guys are just making up. Like, it's actually something that a lot of people follow.
Yeah, there are literally hundreds of meetings. There are actually thousands of meetings around the world for Recovery Dharma. And we have people coming to my meetings who are from Germany and Australia and, any place on the planet, because people do practice this, and almost all of them are practicing because of addiction, but not always to substances. It can be applied to sex addiction. It can apply to gambling addiction. Basically, pretty much anything that is repetitive and that is harmful to the person who's taking that sort of activity on a regular basis. You can use Recovery Dharma because it's not religious, it's not specific, it's about the things that you're suffering from, the things that are making your life more difficult. If it's a repetitive kind of situation where you are hurting yourself rather than doing yourself good, or just not living ethically, or whatever it might be, it's a way to bring yourself back to your center as the person, the pure person, shall we say, that you were when you were younger, before you became corrupted by, your life and society, and maybe, because of your environment as a child, you were corrupted. And I know that was one of the things that happened to you in your story, was you were born into a family where drug use was, it was everywhere, and you
normal,
had to escape it. So, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that would be helped by, finding equanimity for yourself. And I know you're doing fine in your recovery, and God bless you for that. And, that's an awesome accomplishment on your part. But anyway, that's what Recovery Dharma is for. It's not just for one sort of ailment in particular. It's for a wide range of ailments. Right. Sorry.
No, that's I was just saying, that's what I found really neat about it, is that it's not, NA is for narcotics and AA is for alcohol, and I know some other ones do kind of not, but that's kind of like, I don't know, it spoke to me because that's kind of what my platform is. Like I want it to be, addicts and alcoholics and of all pathways and just everybody, what professionals in the field, just anybody to be welcome here. And that's kind of what put me in mind of when I first read about Dharma and how you guys just,
Yeah.
it's very open. Like it's like, instead of like a program that you have to live by, it's like just a outline or a structure, that's like, this is the way you're supposed to live and the right things to do, but not, I don't know, not set in stone, I guess is.
Yeah, it's not restrictive. The path, what we basically say in Recovery Dharma is your path is your own. You can be part of a Sangha or, go to meetings, sporadically or whatever you want to. You don't have to pay any dues or anything like that, unless the location where you're going to a meeting has some sort of a policy. But every Sangha has its own policies toward that. But yeah, it's you make of it what you want to. You use how much of it you want to. It's a therapy. It's not a faith. It's just something that you do for yourself. And obviously, it can have a tremendously positive and beneficial effect to those around you. Because if you're a mess in addiction, if you can get out of that addiction and control it, or just abstain completely, just renounce it completely for the rest of your life, everybody's going to be better off. Everybody in the world is going to be better off. Not just the people that you know and the people that you love, but by your actions. In your work or in your life in general, you're going to be a better person. And that's really the story about Recovery Dharma. It's just going to make you a better person if you are sincere about practicing it.
I was really, thank you we have 10 minutes left and I'm running out of stuff to ask you. If you have anything else you want to add, now's your time. If not, we'll go ahead and close this episode out. My internet is starting to act funny again. So okay. I don't want to get us kicked off. I don't want to have three seconds to this episode.
Yeah, we can cut it short. You're the host, and I will do whatever you feel comfortable with.
We're only 9 minutes by the time we say goodbye and all of that. We should be right pretty close. But is there anything else you want to add? Anything you want to leave with?
Well, I'd just like to leave people with one other thing, and it has nothing to do with Recovery Dharma. It has to do with the guy that you see in front of you on the screen here. The guy named James spent 35 years as an alcoholic. And it was a progressive disease. It very nearly cost me my only marriage with the woman I adore. And that's a good reason to get sober. I'm very glad that I am sober. I just passed 6 months in this recovery, 100% sober, and I'm feeling great. And I wish for all of you the same feeling and the same healing. And I appreciate the opportunity to chat again with you, Leanna, and to share this message with your viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, James, for being here. With that, we'll take it in. There's no other questions. I think when we got kicked off, I think maybe people didn't join back on, but it'll be recorded and it'll be uploaded so people get to see us anyway. And thank you so much for bearing with me. You've been an incredible sport. I've had immense difficulties. Somebody said, congratulations, 6 months is a big deal. I guess we do have people watching. So yeah. So thank you so much for being here. And they are right. A minute is a big deal. So congratulations to you. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you everybody for watching today. And we should be live next Friday at 6, hopefully, if I can get all my issues worked out for a close episode.